Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe, ding the notification bell so you don't miss a beat. Now in this lesson, I want to look at references. Referencing, relative, mixed, and absolute references. Now this concept or this topic is extremely important to grasp if you're going to do a serious Excel. It's a very foundational concept to understand because in certain circumstances, not using the proper type of reference in your formulas can yield the wrong result without warning. In this lesson, we're going to do some simple but efficient exercises to make it very clear when and why we need to consider using a type of reference other than the default reference. Now, let's get into it. Now, looking at what we have here now, by default, all references are of a relative type. Okay, we said there are basically three types of references in Excel. We have the relative, then we have mixed, and then absolute. So we're going to look at some simple exercises to make it clear when and why we need to switch or use one reference other than the default one. Okay, so now we said by default, all references in Excel are of relative type. Now, what does this mean? Now, if I look at my data set here, if I multiply this value 4 by the value in cell B1, that is 5, that gives me 20. That's nice. Now, when I use my fill handle to copy down, okay, if I look at my references now, you can see that A1, B1 automatically became A2 times B2, and then automatically became A3 times B3, and so on, A4 times B4. Now, you can know that only the row number change. Now, this is called relative because the references adjust to their relative position as they are copied. Okay, we are copying down. If I'm to copy across, okay, only the column letter will change. Okay, now sometimes though, you don't want this to happen. You want the row or the column portion of a reference to remain unchanged while the formula is copied. Now let's look at this second example. Move to sheet 2. Let's consider the second example so that we can see what we want to do here. Okay, now looking at this second example here, let's say I have these salespersons. Okay, they sold certain amount of products. Okay, is the quantity, and then I want to apply a commission on each of their sales. Okay, but the commission is actually found in this cell B7. Okay, now say I want to use the value in this commission to multiply all through. Okay, I want to use the value in this commission to multiply all through. So let's see how we can go about that. Now I come and build my formula. Okay, so equal to this B2 multiplied by the value in B7, and then I click press enter. Now see that it gives me the correct answer. If I try to use my fill handle down now, fill it down, boom, see now it gives me the wrong result. So let's try and understand what it's trying to do here. Now what it's trying to do is trying to follow the relative reference approach. Okay, so what it's trying to do is it's trying to multiply the value in B2 by B7, which gave us the correct answer in the first instance. And then as we copy down, okay, try to multiply B3 by B8, and then B4 by B9, and then B5 by B10, and so on. Okay, now we notice that the value while using to multiply is just in cell B7. Okay, so and what we want to do is we want to actually use just that value to multiply all three. Now, what we have to do is we have to make sure that we freeze or lock the value in row B7, the value in cell B7, so that it remains constant as we copy the formula all the way down. Okay, to do this, let's go try to build our formula once again. Let's delete everything now. Okay, so to do this, while you are building the formula, equal to B2 multiplied by, okay, now when I click on B7, I can hit key F4 key. Okay, now let's see something. As I hit F4, you can see changes from $B$7 to B$7 to $B7, then back to B7. Okay, so the solution now is to lock the row part because we are copying down. Okay, because we are copying this formula down, and the row number naturally is what we change. So what we have to do is we have to lock the row part, and then it remains constant all the way down. So what I need to do now to lock the row part, I hit F4 until the $sign appears in front of the row number. Okay, so B$7. Then I press enter. Okay, and then when I copy down now, notice that it gives me what I want. Beautiful, perfect. So this is what I want. That is mixed reference. Okay, now the mixed reference are two types. The mixed reference are two types. Make sure that if I'm copying down, okay, I have to lock or freeze the row parts of the reference. Okay, if I need to copy across, okay, in that situation, I need to lock or freeze the column part of that reference. Now let's consider the next example to best understand that. Okay, now let's say I have these goods, these products. Okay, they are different prices. Now let's say because of tariff or whatever reason, I want to implement or effect a 5% increase on all these products. Okay, so let's see how we can actually get that done. Now you notice that in this situation, I need to copy across. Okay, but let's see how we can actually get that done. So to get that done now, equal to, so while I'm building my formula, this time around, because we want to copy across, we are going to lock or freeze the column part of the reference. Okay, so equal to this value multiplied by 5% plus, okay, now hold on, while we are building that formula, when we get to cell B5, which we want to use as the constant, okay, I hit F4, until the $sign now appears just in front of the column part. Okay, so what we're saying is we hit F4 until the $sign appears in front of the column letter, so $E5. So then I put plus this value and press enter. Okay, so if I copy across now, you see, gives me an answer, of which if I didn't do that, it's going to give me 0, 0, 0, 0, just like in the first instance. Okay, so what we need to copy across, we lock the column part. What we need to copy down, we lock the row portion of that reference. Okay, so invariably we've seen that mixed reference are two types. Okay, we need to copy down, we need to lock or freeze the row part of that reference so that it remains constant all through our formula. Okay, but we need to copy across, we need to lock or freeze the column part of that reference so that it remains constant all across the formula as we copy across. Okay, now this now leads us to absolute reference. Yes, so we want to take a look at the PMT function. This part, I want to use the PMT function to actually understand absolute references. Okay, absolute reference. Now, when we are looking at an absolute reference this time around, we need to copy formula both down and across. Okay, which actually sometimes happens. Okay, so that reference has to be an absolute reference. So we're going to use the PMT function to actually carry out this. Now in this part of the lesson, we're going to use both mixed. We need to copy down, and then we need to copy across, and then we're also going to use absolute reference. Okay, so let's get into it and see how we can actually get that done. Now, let's say, for example, now someone comes to collect a loan. They say this is a loan value. The person wants to actually collect. Okay, access. Let's say he wants to say access $12,000 loan or 12,000 whatever currency. Okay, now let's say that's the loan person wants to actually access. Now it walks up to the issuing company, and then let's say they have some interest rates. Okay, at 5% interest rate, at 5.5, at 6%, at 6.5, at 7%. Okay, and then over a period of months. Okay, so we have that 6, 42, 48, 54, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's say that person wants to accept that loan. So let's use the PMT function to actually calculate how much the person will need to pay at whatever interest rate and over whatever period of months. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, what we're going to do now, let's build our formula. Okay, now let's go and bring up our PMT function, PMT. Now in the read box, okay, we click on cell B4, B4, okay, click on B4, which is our 5%, and lock the row part, okay, because we want to copy down now. You see, going to use this formula to copy down, okay, for our percentage. So B4, and then I lock the row part of that reference. Okay, so locking the row part, I press F4 until the dollar sign appears in front of the row number. Now, because it's a yearly rate, okay, so we need to divide this by 12. Okay, so that value divided by 12. Okay, so to make it monthly, it's monthly payments. Okay, so and then with my comma, okay, the number of periods box, okay, I click on cell A5, okay, click on cell A5. Now in this situation, we need to copy this, reference this formula across the part of this reference or the part of this formula across. Okay, so in this instance, we want to lock the column part of that reference. Okay, we need to lock the column part of that reference. Okay, so to lock the column part, it's F4 until the dollar sign appears in front of the column letter. Okay, is that understood? Now, I now move on to the last part. Okay, the present value. I click on cell B1, which is our loan amount. Okay, now this loan amount, we're going to use it both to copy both down and across. Okay, we're going to apply that loan amount both down and across because it's going to actually determine either 5% or 5.5% or whatever, and then over the period of months. Okay, so we have to make that reference an absolute reference. Okay, so first of all, we are using the PMP function, don't forget, so we have to follow through. Okay, so I put minus, okay, minus, then I click on B1, okay, and then I hit F4 once. Okay, now an absolute reference states, okay, where the dollar sign appears both in front of the column letter and in front of the row number. Okay, so I hit F4 once until the dollar sign appears both in front of the column and then the row number. Okay, now the minus in front of the B1 argument is so that PMP function actually returns the positive amount. Okay, because normally these are deductions. Okay, so we just put that minus so that PMP function actually returns a positive amount. Okay, now I click OK. Okay, so this is the value at 5%. Okay, and if the person is making that payment over a period of 36 months. Okay, so let's copy down now, copy down, and then copy across. Okay, so that's how we get that done now. Can you see why it needs to be done that way? The reference to B4 is interest. Okay, needs to remain constant for all the rows, but the column letter needs to become C, D, E, and F, and so on. Okay, in similar vein, the reference A5, which is our period of months, okay, needs to remain constant for the 5 columns, or the row number needs to change from 5 to 11 in our own situation now. And then the reference to P1 actually needs to remain constant for the whole table. Okay, so that is the PMP function. So we use the PMP function to actually see using how to use both mixed references and then the absolute reference. Now, if I change this value here, changing the constant, will update. Let's say I change it to $30,000 or whatever. Okay, changing the constant, see that the whole table is being recalculated. So that is that. Now, for us to actually understand this better, there's a table that we can actually use to actually keep us a reference. So you can make reference to this table, and then to help you, you can print it down and keep it as a guide. Then you can actually use it whenever you don't, whenever you want to try to understand referencing. So that's all for this lesson. I hope you're able to make it clear when and why you need to use one reference as against the default type, which you said is relative. So we've seen different types of references here. We looked at the relative. Then we saw the mixed reference. The mixed reference, we said it's of two types. So we need to copy down. Then we need to copy across. and then absolute reference when we need that reference to apply both down and across in the formula. So that is cell references in Excel. I hope we'll be able to understand it more clearer now. If there are any questions or anything you don't understand, let me know in the comment section. Okay. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you in the next lesson. Thank you very much.